Hello, my name is Fernando Silva. I'm a Portuguese dentist, and I am here today to present an implantat webinar. I will be your host today. So, welcome. Hello, my name is Fernando Silva. I'm a Portuguese dentist, and I am here today to present an implantat webinar. I will be your host today. So, welcome. And the subject of this webinar is immediate provisionalization, biologic and aesthetic importance. I'm ambassador, mentor, and trainer of the S.I.N implant system. I have exclusive activity in oral surgery, implantology, and rehabilitation on implants. All my training over time is about implant dentistry. I have international master in the aesthetic implantology by UCAM Madrid and the NYU in New York. And today I will introduce you how to achieve this kind of emergency profile. The profile that is the main barrier for our implants, preventing bacterial plaque retention, contaminations, and aesthetically as natural as possible, replacing the natural teeth in anterior regions with high aesthetic levels. This natural barrier will prevent also the resorption of buccal bone and the consequent collapse of the soft tissues over time. This is some examples of the emergency profile in lower jaw, where the requirement is greater as the gum normally have different characteristics from the maxilla, as we know. And we all have situations like this in our daily lives to rehabilitate, like such as foot fractures, root resorptions, as we've seen, and the caries also, as you've seen in this X-ray, and missing teeth. That, for me, the difficulty of the rehabilitation is greater in that situation. This kind of situation with the interdental space already very well healed and flat makes it more difficult to reconstruct papillae. So I determined 6 essential conditions to achieve that kind of emergency profile. The first one is the primary implant stability, and Di Stefano, in the study of 2021, stipulated a value between 20 and 40 newtons to consider ideal in order to obtain the desired osseointegration, although the minimum value is not stipulated. And he said so also, if there is insufficient primary stability, excessive micro movements may occur and lead to unsuccessful osseointegration. If the value is exceeded, it can lead to the formations of fibrous tissue and the encapsulation of the implant. The same Di Stefano in the same study said, on the other hand, excess torque has been associated with microfractures, necrosis, and bone remodeling caused by stress on the bone, which can compromise osseointegration. So we have a value between 20 and 40 newtons to make our implant placement. It's the ideal. So Sadid and all in the study of 2014 said the several factors, they are another several factors can influence both primary and secondary stability, such as the surface, length, and diameter of the implant. Also, the surgical technique used. So, S.I.N about this problem, developed an implant that is EpiCut. And EpiCut, it's a premium line implant with some particularities, as such as he has two connections, Morse taper and external X. He's got a sharp, compressive, and aggressive implant design with double threads with inverted support, and is a unique and exclusive cutting, compressive and aggressive hybrid micro geometry. This is the both connections, external X and the Morse taper. The EpiCut is ideal to solutions in case of immediate loading, low density bones, and post-extraction sockets. It was developed with high technology, innovation, and a broad scientific base. His internal angle of the Morse taper with 11.5 degrees is compatible with other systems. And he has exclusive micro trees, reducing the risk of resorption bone. They increase the area of contact with the bone and improve the dissipation of occlusal forces, especially cutting forces. The coverage and profile of Morse tape implant is more efficient in transmitting loads to the marginal bone, affecting a smaller volume of bone with deformations compatible with bone resorption. It has also two surfaces. The first one is double acid etching. It's a uniform and micro-corrugated surface that guarantees faster osseointegration. He has also greater contact between the implant body and the bone, promoting reducing the risk of bone resorption and favoring peri-implant health. The other surface is DAE, the double acid etching, with an exclusive HA nano. It's a uniform and micro-corrugated surface that guarantees faster osseointegration. It has high hydrophilicity, which is generated by an ultra-thin and homogeneous layer of hydroxyapatite, increases the activity of the proteins involved in the osseointegration process. I have to say, this kind of surface was developed in Sweden in the Promenic company. Your double treats with inverted support are used to resist tensile forces and therefore more efficient in establishing the implant to the palatine bone of the extraction sockets in the case of immediate implants. And the double trees also ensure greater implant rotation and speed in installation, as well as high stability and greater surgical accuracy. The Apex promotes a support and stability for thin bone cases, high torque in the palatal approach technique, and gives more stability. And this is the image what we can achieve with this kind of implant, this premium line. This is a perfect value of primary stability. So the second point of the essential conditions is the biotype of hard and soft tissues. And there is importance, we have to check the importance of the buccal bone thickness, because there are two kinds of thickness. There are the thin bone wall and the thick bone wall. The thin bone wall, it's when the wall thickness is less than 1 millimeter and reveals the progressive bone resorption pattern, leading to median vertical bone loss of 7.5 millimeters or 62% of the former facial bone height after 8 weeks of healing. By the other hand, the thick bone wall phenotype, showing a facial bone with more than 1 millimeter, and is only have a resorption pattern with vertical bone loss with 1.1 millimeter or 9%. So I have to say, in the most of the cases, the phenotype is a thin bone wall. So normally, as usual, we have the thin bone phenotype. I have to say also, it's very important, the dimensional alteration pattern in single extraction sites with healthy neighboring dentition occurred mainly in the central area of the socket wall. Areas, the proximal areas, remaining nearly unchanged after flapless tooth extraction at 8 weeks of healing. This is very important because the bone near the natural teeth still remaining and keep our papillas inside. It's very important to give the most aesthetic result as possible in that region. So if we consider, this is not a subject for today, but if we consider the thin bone phenotype, we have to plan and make some surgeries of bone augmentation or soft tissues augmentation. This is only some materials you can use it, and there are lots of techniques. And I use two only cases to show how can be arrangement. This is a bone defect with a missing teeth. As we see, we have a resorption zone in the vestibular zone between the teeth. I made a connective tissue graft with collagen membrane after the implant placement. At the same time, I made the technique as a sandwich technique to fix it and promote more volume at this region. In the lower jaw, where the phenotype of the gingiva is different, is more thin, I use it also the same technique. And as we see in here, the bone defect in the occlusal view, the implant placement, and I made also the same strategy to rebuild this gum. So the third point is occlusion, and we have to check the space between the maxilla and the mandibula, or the space to achieve and to make our provisional crown and start shaping our emergency profile. This is an advantage situation with space between them. We need some space to build our teeth, and you have to check that space and avoid any kind of contact between the provisional teeth and our opposite teeth. So as we see before, if there is any kind of contact, could lead to a bad osseointegration or a non-osseointegration of our implant. This is a advantage example. This is a provisional crown in screw at implant with connective tissue graft that I made to get more volume at that region and avoiding the collapse of the soft tissues. And this is a not very good situation to make our immediate provisionalization. So as we see it, there is a big trespassing of the lower teeth in the palatal region of the maxilla. Maybe it was the reason of that tooth fracture. I don't know. The patient arrives the first time to me in that situation. As we see, there are a contact between the teeth, the lower teeth, and the gingiva in the palatal zone. And the way I decide to solve this question is a custom closing lid to avoid the collapse soft tissue over the implant, but I didn't do it, the provisional crown in this situation, because I don't have any kind of space and I don't want any kind of contact between that provisional crown, the mediate provisionalization, and the lower teeth. So the 4.2 essential conditions is a surgical technique. And the surgical technique in the ITI Consensus Conference in 2003, they defined three comfort zones: the mesiodistal, the coronal-apical, and the orofacial. The mesiodistal is the distance between our implant and the natural teeth. The coronal-apical is very important because we have to maintain a distance between the implant connection and the gingival margin. This distance is very important to build the emergency profile. It's very important to keep that distance from the connection, implant connection to the gingival margin. In this case, the distance is between 3.5 millimeters. And the orofacial comfort zone, it's when we made the implant placement, to make the most palatal approach, even in the socket implant, in the post-extractive implant, to avoid any kind of pressure in our buccal bone and avoid any kind of resorption and the collapse of the soft tissues. This is an example of the ideal height of our implant. We have 3.5 millimeters from the implant connection to the gingival margin. This is the final restoration already. And we go through the 5 point number 5, the immediate provisioning and emergency profile. And here, Gomez Meda with Jonathan Skivel and Marcus Blatt defined the importance of the emergency profile with a study, the static biologic contour concept for implant restoration, emergence profile design. And they define 3 different regions, 2 different zones. So we have the CBE zones. The C is more profound, near the connection of the implant. The B is intermediate, and the E it's more external zone. They have different functions such as design, tissue, and length, and they are all important. We have the C zone. His function is a crestal bone stability. His design is straight with connective tissue, and his length is about 1 to 1.5 millimeters. We have the B zone, intermediate. Its function is a biologic boundary area, depending of implant position and soft tissue thickness. It's a junctional epithelium, and it's not keratinocyte epithelium. It's in between 1 and 2 millimeters of length. The E zone, has function, aesthetic conditioning. His design is convex to provide support to gingival margin. His tissue is sulcular epithelium. Histologically is a stratified squamous epithelium, and is the most thin from the 3, and then he got 1 millimeter of length. If we achieve this situation in our emergency profiles, we have to make our provisional crowns with that shape, inverted shape, of course. And that's what we have in here. We have the provisional crown with the 3 zones, well done, defined, and we have to go to the emergency profile, flat in the buccal side, turning to the B zone in the horizontal surface. The C zone should remain straight from the connection of the implant, and the E zone should be convex to stabilize the gingival margin. This is fundamental to provide us a very nice emergency profile, and also, of course, a biological contouring. I have some examples of that. This is a post-extractive implant, and I have to remain in here. I have to tell, we have to take very care when we have to make extraction first, to be very conservative, and we have to be care. We have to take lots of care to don't damage the soft tissues or to don't damage the bone, the hard tissues. And this is after extraction. In the implant placement, we see in here soft tissue, it's organized soft tissue. This is the provisional cylinder that will support our provisional teeth. And this is the provisional teeth. This is immediate provisionalization. This is, I demand here the contour that I need to make the biological contour. In this photo, I have the provisional crown at right, the definitive restoration, the final restoration at left. And as you see it, they are very similar in his shape, in that shape, because one is a consequence of the other one. The importance of a provisional crown is that kind of emergency profile. It passes from disorganized tissue, soft tissue, to that kind of organization, like a beautiful emergency profile with papillas well done defined and very healthy, as you see it. The final rehabilitation of this case, as you see, there are papillas between them, between the final restoration and the contour of the gingiva over our final rehabilitation is, I suppose, I hope so, perfect. Another case, in this case, a canine, as you see of the placement of the provisional crown, we see it the little ischemias near surrounding our provisional teeth, because it's the pressure over the soft tissues. Why? To get the biological contour as we wish. The biological contour described by Gomes-Meda with the CBE well defined between them. The characterization is totally different. This is the emergency profile of this case, of this immediate provisionalization. Another one with disorganized, post-extractive, disorganized soft tissue. This is the provisional teeth, as you see it, without any kind of papillas. We will see forward in the presentation the final restoration, and which we will check if there are any kind of papillas. Okay, so there is a little pressure over the crest, over the provisional teeth to shape our emergency profile as we see it. This is the consequence of that immediate provisionalization. This is another one, biological contour, CBE, with bleeding, very nice bleeding. This is not a sign of any kind of inflammation or else. I will explain further. And this case was the case I showed you before in the beginning. This is the lower jaw where I made the connective tissue graft to get more volume, and this is the result of that surgery, the result of that technique, and the biological contour, as you see, the CBE, well defined, very good defined. So at least you arrive to the point number 6 and the final rehabilitation. But the final rehabilitation also have some particularities we have to check. So Thomas Link-Vicious, in his concept of zero bone loss concept, developed two different regions in our final rehabilitations. He defined one below the soft gum in contact with the gingiva is zirconia, and the upper above the contour of gingiva, the biologic contour, is ceramic. Why? Because the zirconia has to be polished, 4 times polished, as we seen in the left side of the picture. We have 4 process of polishes. We have the image in the electronic microscope, well done polished zirconia, and in the right side we have the difference between the redness of the ceramic at the left side and the zirconia well done polished. This kind of procedure, this kind of technique will be give us a very good addition to the zirconia surface of the epithelial cells and the fibroblasts, leaving this space, the biologic space, well closed. This is an image of a bleeding of zirconia after take it out, and this is not sign of infection, is the interruption of connection of our epithelial cells and our fibroblasts between zirconia and our soft tissues. They seal our biological contour. And if you see, in addition, where the glazer veneering feldspathic ceramic starts, if epithelial cells disappear totally because the ceramic is got very redness. So this is the protocol of polishing zirconia, and we have to make our final restorations depending of the location in mouth. If we have in the anterior or posterior region, in the anterior, normally we have also always zirconia with ceramics, most static, and the high static measure is bigger. So in the posterior region, we can make it depending on the occlusion, or if it's a single restoration or a totally restoration, and the opposite tooth. We can do it with zirconia with ceramics, zirconia with monolithic lithium disilicate, or monolithic zirconia only. Now I will show some examples of this technique and his results. This is I showed this picture in the beginning. This is a root resorption. I'm sorry about this picture. This case is very old, is very antique. Of mine is a case maybe with 8 or 9 years, and I take the photo with the phones, the telephone. It's not ideal, but I have to put it because it's maybe one of the most antique cases of mine. This is the emergency profile we achieve with the provisional crown, and this is the final rehabilitation. As we see it, we have the pillars and a very nice, healthy gum over our restoration. This is a profile. After 3 or 4 years, we see the pigment in the natural teeth, but the most important, the papillas and the gingiva in the vestibular way, it's keep it inside and with lots of health. This is some examples of our crowns, our final rehabilitations that you can see the difference between the zirconia, polished zirconia, very white, and the ceramic, the characterization of the ceramic, even in the color, some views of the same tooth, and other ones. the difference between zirconia, polished zirconia, and the ceramics is very, very evident. And another view from the same restorations, this is very obvious, that kind of image. And one lower rehabilitation with a cantilever of anterior implant. This is the final rehabilitation. In the print 3D model, we work all cases are with the scanner, digital flux, digital way, and this rehabilitation, that rehabilitation is to this emergency profile that I made 8 weeks before with immediate provisionalization. And this is the final rehabilitation in our mouth. I suppose is very, very nice, with a very good contour, natural and healthy contour. This is the case I showed you before, the final, the emergency profile. This is the final rehabilitation. I check your orientation because when I make the implant and the provisional crown, the immediate provisionalization, I regard in you there is no papilla, but this after 8 weeks, this is the result. This is the goal with what we achieve. The contour of the gingiva, the papillas, more closer, as you see, more volume even than the canine. This is the case I showing you at the maxilla, where I made the connective tissue graft to get more volume. This is the result. As we see it, we have more volume in the vestibular side, and this is the final rehabilitation. In the front picture, we see the papillas. When I made this kind of technique, I can achieve more papillas, more volume in the soft tissues to make a very nice papillas. Another picture, more artistic, but it's the same case. This is the bleeding that I said before. This bleeding is when we take it out, the final rehabilitation. There are a cut between our epithelial cells and fibroblasts with the zirconia. This is not a sign of any kind of inflammation. It is very healthy. And the final rehabilitation also with a very nice contour in that region. So, as final considerations, considering mastery of implants and techniques, knowledge of the principles of oral rehabilitation, and assessment of fundamental conditions, we can have predictability of treatment, and we may achieve our goals, that is make some emergency profile who can protect us from our restorations during the time, and avoiding any kind of collapse of the soft tissues and the resorption of the buccal bone in that region. I'm finished with the phrase of Oscar Wilde. Nowadays, people know the price of everything and the value of nothing. And for me, that means somehow some patients of us doesn't know the kind of work we have to do it to get that results, some aesthetic and very high meaning to rebuild some teeth that are fractured or they are lost, and get that kind of goal. So this is a literature review. I want to thank you all for watching me. If you have any kind of question, please let me know. I have all the contacts in here, and as soon as I can, I respond to you. Thank you very much. See you. Have a nice day.